It happened in Napa Valley. Her mother's estate, the kind of place with a wrought iron gate that opens for cars it recognizes. White gravel drive, a fountain in the middle no one looks at anymore, because wealth like that goes blind to itself. I arrived in a dark blazer and jeans. Clean, pressed, understated. But it didn't matter. I was already out of place before I opened the car door. The event was called a welcome dinner. That's what they printed on the invitations. Gold lettering. Off-white cardstock. $200 calligraphy for the word welcome. And not a soul who meant it. I stood alone on the flagstone patio for 13 minutes. I counted. Jen, my wife, floated through the party like she belonged there. And maybe she did. She was raised in that house. Grew up learning which wine to serve with duck, and which words to swallow for the sake of appearances. I used to admire that about her. Now I see it for what it was, a kind of practiced silence. One that made room for cruelty so long as it wore heels and a smile. Liv, her daughter, not mine, barely glanced at me. She was radiant, yes. She looked like a woman carved from the dreams of magazines. Long gown, champagne in hand, perfectly curled hair that caught the fading sunlight like it owed her something. She was laughing when I walked up. I said hello. She didn't respond, just turned her head halfway, squinted and said, "Did he miss the dress code again?" She didn't say my name, just he. A few people chuckled. One man actually repeated it, like it was the line of the night. Did he miss the dress code again? And then he looked at me with the soft, complicit smile of someone who wanted to be liked. I laughed too. A short, practiced sound. The kind of laugh that says, "I'll let you get away with it this time." Even if it's the 50th time. They moved on. Talked about Tuscany. About Jerome's new investment fund. About flowers that were being flown in from Amsterdam for the Paris ceremony. No one looked at me again. I had paid for everything. The castle they were getting married in, my bank account, the dress Liv wore that night, and the one she'd wear to the altar, my card, the catering, the planner, the antique rings her mother insisted on. "They're heirlooms, Brian. We need to buy them back from the estate. It's symbolic." I paid, nodded, smiled. Because that's what you do when you believe the love you give will someday be enough. I left the party early. Said I had emails to answer. No one protested. I'm not sure anyone heard me. Back at the hotel in Lyon, I stood on the balcony with a glass of cognac. I looked down at the lights of the city, soft and yellow, like someone had draped gold over the streets. I could hear music, faint, from another hotel rooftop, something classical. Or maybe it just sounded classical because it was distant. I felt nothing. Not sadness. Not anger. Just clarity. I sat down at the desk, opened my laptop, thought I'd check on a few vendor payments, finalize the florist wire transfers. I was trying to distract myself, if I'm honest, trying to make the pain useful. But then I saw it. Subject line, important wedding update. From Liv. Just my name in the greeting. No dear. No warmth. Brian, Jerome and I talked. Please don't come to the ceremony. Your outfit and attitude are going to ruin the mood. This is our day, not yours. Hope you understand. That was it. No, thank you. No, we appreciate everything you've done. Not even a signature. Just a digital bullet to the head. I sat very still. I read it again. Then again. Like maybe there was a second version of the email hidden between the lines. One where she apologized. One where she said she was drunk. Or stressed. Or being pushed into saying this by someone else. But there wasn't. The email said what it said. Do not come. You ruin the mood. This is not your day. Should have broken me. 6 figures of sacrifice. Dismissed in 5 sentences. Should have cracked me open. But it didn't. Something colder happened. I became still. I became precise. That night I didn't write back. I didn't call Jen. I didn't reply with a demand for respect or a plea for inclusion. I opened a spreadsheet. It wasn't petty. It was inventory. Line by line. Venues, deposits, travel, accommodations. Every cent. Every charge with my name on it. Not for revenge. Not for leverage. For extraction. This wasn't a wedding anymore. It was a heist. And I was the mark. They took what they wanted, the castle, the dresses, the rings, the Instagram aesthetic. All of it underwritten by the man they wouldn't call father, the man they wouldn't even acknowledge at dinner. I stared at that spreadsheet for an hour, then opened a new tab. Began contacting vendors. I didn't feel like a father. I felt like a bank that had just discovered fraud. I thought about the times I drove Liv to school when she was too afraid to take the bus. The way she used to whisper, "Thank you," when she didn't want her mother to hear. I thought about the nights I stayed up with her during flu seasons, the college visits, the therapy bills, the braces, the dance shoes, the Christmas mornings where I was the only one who remembered to wrap the gifts. And then I thought about that dinner, and that email, and the way Jen didn't say a word when the laughter broke around me like a wave. It was all the same silence. I shut the laptop and stood up. The wind off the Rhone River was sharp now. The lights below shimmered like they were underwater. I took one last sip of cognac and whispered something, to no one, to the sky maybe. "Okay, you want this day without me? Then you get every other day without me, too." By morning, the shutdown had begun. I was awake before the sky turned. 4 hours of sleep, if that. Still in my clothes from the night before. I didn't feel tired. I felt surgical. Like something inside me had turned a switch, and now everything was just movement, execution, follow through. There was no second-guessing anymore. No pain. Pain requires hope. I was empty of that. I sat at the small hotel desk. Opened my laptop. Opened my notes. My name was on every payment, every reservation. Not a single thing had been booked without me. The irony? They pushed me out of a wedding that couldn't exist without me. So I started where it hurt the most, for them. The chateau outside Paris. The one Liv cried over when the planner first showed her photos of the ivy-covered turrets. The vineyard in the back. The perfect golden hour. Her words. I emailed the owner. Told him the primary contact, the one who had signed the agreement and made the deposit, was no longer attending. That payment 2 of 3 wouldn't be arriving. That I'd appreciate discretion and, if possible, a partial refund. The man was understanding. 60%, he wrote back. Merci pour votre honnêteté. One call. $30,000 back. Next, the catering. French-Italian fusion. Flown-in ingredients. For tasting menus. I paid in full up front. The woman on the phone was polite but firm. "We've begun sourcing," she said. "We've already allocated staff." "But you haven't cooked," I said. "You haven't served. You haven't rented space or flown a team yet." She was silent for a moment. Then, "We'll refund 75%. Done. Florist, photographer, videographer, musicians, limousine service." One by one I reached out. I had been the signatory. They all recognized the name. All the contracts were in my email. The deposits had come from my account. No one questioned my authority to cancel. There was no Jerome on any of the paperwork. By the time I reached the event planner, she already knew. She didn't say how, but I could hear it in her voice. The panic. "Mr. Tolland, is there anything we can do to make this right?" "No," I said. "There isn't." I closed every loop. Then I logged into the credit card accounts. There were 3, one for Liv, one for Jen, one joint account used for wedding-related purchases. I had set them up as authorized users. Thought it would be easier that way. Thought it made me generous. What it made me was accessible and forgotten. I revoked access, shut down the cards, changed the passwords. No more limos, no more boutiques, no more last-minute upgrades. The wallet they had pulled from without hesitation had finally shut. The messages started within the hour. At first, they were confused. Jen's was the first to land. "Hey, my card just got declined. Did something happen?" I didn't respond. Then Liv. "Brian, are the cards down? I just tried to reserve a transfer from Gare de Lyon for Grandma and it failed." Still, I said nothing. They didn't ask if I was okay. They didn't reference the email. They didn't apologize. The closest I got was a single line from Jen. Liv didn't mean the email. She was just overwhelmed. Overwhelmed. That word again. The excuse they print on Hallmark cards and call a reason. The phone rang. Repeatedly. First Jen. Then Liv. Then Jerome. I hadn't heard his voice in over a year. He left a voicemail, his tone tight with false calm. Hey Brian. I think we might have misunderstood something. Just trying to reach you. Let's talk this through. There was no misunderstanding. There was clarity. And now there were consequences. I left the hotel. Walked aimlessly through Lyon. The streets were old, cobbled, beautiful. People sat outside cafes, laughing over wine and bread. Their joy didn't hurt me. It just highlighted how quiet my own life had become. How many years I had poured into building something for other people, only to be handed a digital pink slip. I checked my phone. 18 missed calls. The planner emailed again. She sounded more frantic this time. The vendors are calling. The venue's gone. We need to know if this wedding is still happening. It wasn't. It had died the moment Liv hit send. When I returned to the hotel, the concierge stopped me in the lobby. Mr. Tolland, you have a guest. My stomach turned. For a moment, I thought Jen had flown out. But no, it was a delivery. A handwritten envelope. No return address. Inside, a single folded note. Please don't destroy this. We didn't mean it. No name. But the handwriting was Liv's. She had always written like she was in a hurry. No loops on her Y's. A sharp slant forward, like the letters were running away from the page. I folded the note back up and left it at the front desk. Let them wonder if I read it. That night, the internet broke the silence for me. I hadn't posted anything. I hadn't spoken to anyone besides the vendors and banks. But word gets out fast when money vanishes. Guests started asking questions. DMs, Facebook messages. Hey, I just saw a post. Is the wedding canceled? I booked a flight to Paris. What's happening? Should we still come? And then someone, I don't know who, leaked screenshots. Emails from planners with my name all over them. Receipts with my card. Photos from the engagement party. Me in the background, lifting a glass beside Jerome. Liv between us, all smiles. Captions started appearing. Didn't Brian pay for this whole thing? Wasn't he the one who gave her the ring? Why would they cut out the man who paid for it all? Liv posted something vague, passive-aggressive. Never depend on someone else's generosity, even in family. It backfired. Hard. Within an hour, the comments piled up. Did you just call the guy who paid for your wedding a someone? You should be grateful he even showed up. This is why rich kids don't deserve anything. She deleted the post. But the screenshots lived on. By morning, it had become a conversation, not just within the wedding circle, but on forums, threads, posts by strangers arguing about respect, entitlement, obligation. My name wasn't always attached, but those who knew, knew. Jerome emailed me again. Brian, please, let's talk. Liv is devastated. We've got family flying in. You can't just pull the plug. I ignored it. They hadn't invited me to the ceremony. Now they wanted me to resurrect it? They thought the system they stood on was eternal. That money flowed like tap water. That kindness was something they could use without limit, without gratitude. I went to sleep. No calls. No pings. No, we're sorry. Only silence. And in that silence, I found the edge I needed. They thought they were at the center of the story. That I was just the background. The provider. The invisible thread holding it all together. But the thing about threads is, when they snap, everything unravels. By the third day, I didn't have to say a word. The internet did it for me. It started quietly. A thread on a wedding subreddit. A screenshot of a vendor contract with my name in bold. A photo from the engagement party. Me at the center, holding a champagne glass while Liv beamed in the foreground. Captioned, Brian, our angel. People started asking the right questions. Wait. Isn't this the guy they just uninvited? Didn't he pay for the whole thing? How do you erase someone like that? And then the dam burst. Someone, I don't know who, uploaded an itemized list. A spreadsheet. My spreadsheet. Word for word. Line for line. The chateau, the rings, the flowers, the flights. Even the dress from Milan. A digital confession of what I had poured into that wedding. I hadn't shared it, but someone had access. Maybe the planner. Maybe one of the vendors I'd pulled out from under them. Maybe Jen. Doesn't matter now. Because once it was out there, the narrative flipped. No longer was I the background. I was the man who made the fantasy possible. And now I was gone. Twitter threads, TikToks, Instagram reels of brides crying over dresses they couldn't afford, overlaying captions like, "At least I didn't kick out the man who paid for it all." Liv had become a cautionary tale. She posted again, a single paragraph trying to reclaim the story. Things have been taken out of context. Families are complicated. No one is entitled to generosity. This is our private life. Please respect our boundaries. But the internet doesn't forget. And it sure as hell doesn't forgive hypocrisy. They dug up photos, old birthday posts where she thanked me for raising her. Captions like, "Best bonus dad ever." They found a video from her college graduation. Me clapping in the front row while Jen filmed. The speech she gave. Thank you to my mom and Brian, who believed in me when it was hard to believe in myself. One user stitched that video with her wedding disinvite. Caption, "So, was it all fake?" She deleted her account the next day. I didn't celebrate. I didn't feel triumphant. I felt like I was watching a house burn, one I had helped build. But I didn't reach for a hose. I just watched. From my hotel balcony, the city below glowed gold in the morning light. France had always looked like a place outside time, a museum of stone and air and reverence. But even here, the ugly truth followed. Because it wasn't about the money anymore. It was about the lie, the illusion that I was included, that I mattered. And now the world knew the truth. And so did they. The next morning, the concierge buzzed my room. "Madame Tolland is here to see you." I didn't answer right away. I stared at the door like it might disappear if I waited long enough. But it didn't, and neither did she. So I opened it. Jen stood in the hallway. No makeup, clothes wrinkled, hair tied back. Her eyes were swollen. She looked older than I remembered. I stepped aside, let her in. She sat at the table by the window, folded her hands, stared at the carpet. For a long time, she said nothing. Then, finally, "Liv's not eating." I nodded. She kept going. "She hasn't come out of the room since yesterday. Jerome's worried. His parents flew in from Boston. They're demanding answers." I poured 2 coffees, set one in front of her. Didn't sit. She didn't touch it. "She's humiliated," Jen whispered. "So was I said. She looked up at me, eyes glassy. "She made a mistake. She's young. She didn't know how to handle the pressure. She knew how to type a sentence," I said. "She knew how to press send." Silence again. I walked to the dresser, picked up my iPad, swiped it open, turned the screen toward her. It was the ledger, the full breakdown, from the first deposit to the last canceled payment. She didn't reach for it, just stared. Her voice broke. "You're really done?" "Yes," I said. "I'm not getting even. I'm cleaning up. I shut down the system that forgot who built it." She wiped her eyes. She said it was a joke, that she didn't mean it. I leaned against the wall, arms crossed. A joke is when you laugh with someone, not at them. Not when you humiliate the man who paid for your wedding and then tell him not to show up. Her hands trembled. "You're punishing everyone, even me." "No," I said. "I'm freeing myself. I spent 13 years showing up for a girl who called me dad when she needed braces. But Brian when her father visited. I let it go. I told myself love would fix it. I paid. I stayed. I protected. And when it mattered, when she stood at the threshold of her new life, she kicked me out like a stranger." Jen's voice was barely audible. "We were wrong." "I know." I finally sat across from her. The air between us felt like glass. Fragile, sharp, unspoken things hanging in the silence. She looked at me with a kind of pleading I hadn't seen in years. Not since Liv's appendix burst and we spent the night trading seats in a hospital chair. "I should have said something at dinner," she whispered. I nodded. "Yes." She swallowed. "I let her mock you. I thought you were used to it." That was the worst part. She was right. I was used to it. I had become fluent in their disdain, comfortable in their forgetfulness. I had trained myself to believe that invisibility was the cost of love. I stood. Take care of her, I said. Not for me, for you. Because there's no more money coming. No more lifelines. You both showed me who I am in this family. And I finally believe you. Jen rose too. For a second, she looked like she might argue. Like she might grab my hand, or cry or beg. But instead, she nodded. And left. The door clicked shut behind her like the end of a chapter. I stood there for a long time. The coffee on the table had gone cold. The air in the room felt thinner. But I was lighter. Later that day, I walked the streets of Lyon, bought a notebook, sat by the river, watched the boats pass under the bridges, and I wrote the title on the first page. Things I no longer carry. Page 1. The cost of their silence. The weight of unspoken gratitude. The hope that love would be enough. I closed the notebook, took a breath, and didn't look back. It's been 4 months. I live in Seattle now. A 1-bedroom near Lake Union. Nothing special. 4th floor. No concierge, no valet. But the silence is mine. The rent is mine. The bed is mine. The food in the fridge, the bills in the drawer, the keys by the door, all mine. There's no one here to roll their eyes when I speak. No whispered jokes across a dinner table. No women standing in doorways, torn between love and loyalty, too cowardly to name the wound. No daughters with $1,000 shoes and a $5 heart. I sleep deeply. No texts. No calls. No emergencies. It's the absence of crisis that tells you who was leaning on you the most. Some nights I wake before dawn. Not from nightmares. From habit. The phantom sense that something needs fixing. A vendor needs wiring, a suitcase needs packing, a bill needs covering. But there's nothing. Just wind at the windows. Rain on the roof. My own breath. And it's enough. The last time I saw Jen was in that hotel room in Lyon. I haven't heard from her since. I don't expect to. I think she understood. Maybe for the first time in our marriage, she actually understood. The weight of what she allowed. The silence she cloaked herself in. She called it not taking sides. But silence is a side. Especially when mockery fills the room and you leave the door open. Liv never reached out again. Not after the fallout. Not after the posts. Not even after the refunds dried up and the wedding was reduced to a memory of what could have been. White dresses never worn, vows never spoken, champagne never poured. I watched her social accounts go private. Saw the hashtags disappear. The vendors stopped tagging her. The planner deleted her promo video. Their perfect day became a cautionary tale. And me? I let them disappear. I didn't tell my side. Didn't post. Didn't defend. I didn't need to. Because when you've given everything and they still spit in your face, the absence of your hands becomes louder than any words. You'd be surprised how fast people remember your value once it's gone. I kept every receipt. Not for revenge. For remembrance. A digital museum of generosity. I scroll through them sometimes. Not with bitterness, but clarity. The florists. The Paris flights. The castle deposit. The $14,200 dress with custom lace sleeves Liv begged for. Please, Brian. It's the one. And I gave it. All of it. Because that's what fathers do, right? Even the ones without the title. Even the ones whose names get replaced with silence. Even the ones asked not to come. Let me tell you something I've learned. The cruelest rejection is not hatred. It's dismissal. The quiet deletion of a man's presence from a life he helped build. And the cruelest mistake? Allowing it. Believing that love without respect can survive. That money without gratitude can sustain a home. That sacrifice without acknowledgement is something holy, instead of something hollow. I used to think patience would win them over. That years of showing up would outlast the ghost of her real father. That consistency would speak louder than biology. That maybe, just maybe, Liv would look back one day and see me. Not the man who married her mother, but the man who stayed, through braces, and breakups, and bad grades, and panic attacks, and college tours, and midnight calls when her tire blew out in the rain. But no, That moment never came. Instead, I was met with an email. Cold dismissal. A sentence soaked in contempt. Your outfit and attitude are going to ruin the mood. That was the moment the illusion shattered. I had never been family. I had been a convenience, a card swipe, a safety net. And the moment they felt strong enough to walk the wire without me, they cut the rope, not realizing I had been holding the whole structure together. They didn't fall immediately, but they will. Not out of cruelty, out of gravity, because people who grow on borrowed ground eventually have to face the cost of the soil. I imagine Liv will marry eventually, somewhere smaller, simpler, a courthouse, or a vineyard without the castle. I wonder if she'll walk down the aisle in a different dress, one that fits her budget instead of her dreams. I wonder if she'll remember what she gave up, what she threw away. I wonder if Jen will ever explain it to her, that the man she erased had once loved her like his own blood. But I don't wonder for long, because it's no longer mine to carry. I walk now, every day, just walk. No destination, around the lake, through neighborhoods I don't recognize. Sometimes I bring a thermos of coffee. Sometimes I stop at a bench and sit in the rain, watching the water move like time itself. I think about nothing, and that's the miracle. For years I carried everything. Their futures, their feelings, their failures. Now I carry nothing, and in that emptiness there's peace. I don't miss them. I miss the version of myself that thought they'd love me back. That man's gone. He deserved better. But he died in France, under a golden chandelier, with laughter ringing in his ears. I stood there, blazer too casual, smile too forced, and realized I was a guest at a table I paid for. Now I eat alone, and I taste everything. I make my own meals. I wash every dish by hand. There's a ritual to it, a kind of quiet power. I used to order takeout because I was too busy saving other people's plans. Now I have time. Time to cook. Time to sit. Time to chew. Freedom tastes like broth simmered all day. I own less now. No second car. No his and hers bathrobes. No antique rings stored in safes. But what I have, I recognize. Every object in this apartment was chosen by me. No one else's taste. No one else's opinion. No passive-aggressive remarks about color palettes or masculine furniture. My home reflects my life now. Quiet. Undeniably mine. Sometimes people ask, old colleagues, distant friends, what happened to the wedding? And I just say, it didn't. They raise eyebrows, nod slowly, then move on, because they don't really want the truth. They want gossip. I let them starve. I owe no one the story, except maybe you. Maybe the man out there who knows what it's like to raise a child not born of his blood, to pay the bills, to stay up all night when the fever spikes, to cheer the loudest from the bleachers, to wipe away tears not made for him, and be met with coldness when he asks for nothing more than acknowledgement. To you I say this, you're not alone, and you're not weak for walking away. You're not cruel for demanding respect. You're not selfish for drawing a line after years of erasure. They'll call you bitter, but bitterness only grows in soil soaked with neglect. You didn't plant it, you just stopped pruning it. I used to think love meant endurance. Now I know love without boundaries is martyrdom. And I'm done being a martyr. So here I am, 52, living in a quiet apartment with second-hand furniture and first-rate freedom. No stepdaughters ashamed of me. No wives who bite their tongue while I'm humiliated in front of strangers. No empty thank you cards from bridal showers. No more pretending that generosity makes up for contempt. I pay for no one now, and no one laughs at me while sipping wine I bought. I leave you with this. Was I wrong to leave a wedding where I was never welcome? Was it cruel to stop carrying people who mocked the hands that lifted them? Was it selfish to finally say no, after years of quiet giving? Or was it the only choice left to a man who finally saw his reflection? Not in their love, but in their laughter? You tell me, would you have stayed? Would you still have paid? Would you still have smiled while they emptied your pockets and erased your name? Or would you, like me, finally say, enough?